It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show where myself, Tom Merritt, and my co-host Brian Brushwood get to talk about the shows we've been watching. Cordkillers, our other show, we spend a lot of time figuring out how to watch. But on this episode, we are going to spoil Deadwood Season 3, Episode 10, Preacher, Episode 10 of Season 3, the season finale of Preacher, Better Call Saul's third episode of Season 4. But, Brian, so much less important, more important, is congratulating Team John Trucker again.
Yeah, no, congratulations, Team John Trucker. Let's check in on the movie draft. I said movie. Movie draft. That's how it's pronounced. Movie draft.
Can they get to 1.1 million?
Yeah, dude, creeping up on 1.1 billion. Team John Trekker won handily. X-Modem won the Chat Realm League. And meanwhile, Crazy Rich Asians held on to the #1 slot for a second week in a row. Not enough to move the needle for Tell It anyway. They were only at $76 million.
One more movie out, Replicas, which is Team Cordkillers' movie. Not expected to make a lot of money, so it's probably not going to tip the scales for anyone. And none of the second place people have it in the Chat Realm Top 25. So yeah, X-Modem and Team John Trekker, they're just going to be riding this out for the next 4 weeks until the official end at September 21st.
We're going to call it, but when we get to the official end in a couple of weeks, we'll give you the final standings.
Yeah, the final standings, which will be Team John Trekker, followed by DTNS, Not Tactile It Anyway, Chips Bitch, and Team Cordkillers.
All right.
But maybe it won't be. I don't know. Maybe Replicas will be a super surprise hit. Let's start talking about Better Call Saul. I guess the thing that stuck out to me is that I was thinking, I don't know. I was a little confused by why he was chipper after the revelation of his brother. And this episode, I don't know if it resolved my confusion when Kim was so hesitant and she's like, I have to do the right thing. I have to. And she's kind of the opposite of Jimmy, right? She's like, no, I always do the right thing. I'm going to give him the letter. And he reads the letter and he's like, oh, okay. Well, that's pretty typical. Did you think that was the real letter?
Oh.
Or do you think Kim forged it?
Oh.
Ooh.
I didn't even consider that possibility. I
don't think it's very probable, but it was such a positive letter that I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little suspicious.
Well, you're certainly right in that Chuck face-to-face would never say those words.
Right.
But Chuck, protector of his legacy, figurer of how to jab one more needle in his little brother, after, knowing Chuck does seem like the kind of person that would do the calculus where, like, if I'm dead, I want it to cause maximum pain for my brother. Here's a way to do that. Let me be magnanimous in death in a way that I would not be in, because at that point, in a selfish way, I would totally expect Chuck to care about his legacy and what everybody said and thought about him after he was gone. And in that case, it felt like a sufficiently Chuck-centric letter, like he was blessing himself as a saint.
Yeah.
And then, specifically that whole scene, I think what we were meant to take away from it is this is the moment Jimmy's gone. We're seeing Saul Goodman. That he reacts like Saul Goodman. He is everything that we're seeing from this point forward. I've not seen anything from this episode that doesn't feel exactly consistent with what I would expect from Saul Goodman. From the immediate direct recruitment of somebody to commit a crime, to following up with somebody else, to being totally emotionally bulletproof, this letter to his brother. Saul is here and Jimmy is gone. And Kim, I think she was weeping not for the letter, but because of what she saw or didn't see in Jimmy. I think that is her realization that this is no longer Jimmy. This is somebody else. And I don't understand what he's become. And I am weeping for the loss of something that I felt like we had.
I'm not sure I got that from Kim or not. I can see where you would. I felt like it was more tension release. She thought it was going to be harsh and it wasn't. I don't know, but I could see it going the other way. As far as the letter goes,
keep in mind also, she stuck her neck out, acting like she thought Jimmy would want her to act in the previous episode, accusing Hamlin of saying like, what is this, a poke from the grave? And she went
that's where I was going is when it wasn't a poke from the grave, she's like, oh crap, I was so angry and nervous for no reason, and let me just let it all out now.
Right. Well, she's like, I'm sure she's feeling guilty and like, oh, I'm a real piece of work. Look at me. Here I am accusing other people and assuming the worst. What am I? I'm almost as bad as what?
Or she's crying because she wrote that letter.
He says that it's signed at the end.
Just Chuck.
Yeah.
Just Chuck.
No one can fake Chuck's signature.
Yeah, I don't know.
I am not convinced myself that is the case, but there was something about the letter, and you're right. It is somewhat Chuck-centric, but I feel like it would be even more Chuck-centric. The part where he's like, I'm proud of what you built. I'm like, that doesn't sound like Chuck. I'm proud that you tried. That would be Chuck.
Oh, that's
you know what I mean?
Good point. Well, and plus also, did it have a date? Do we know where in the timeline theoretically this would have happened?
I don't think
it would be weird if he up and changed his will recently.
Mm-hmm. Right, but also what you built, man, that's an interesting one because
he's had a lot of legitimate successes. Jimmy has
but also Chuck undermined those, and also he hadn't really built anything because he only built in the previous season when he did his own separate practice, or I don't know.
And Chuck's major criticism was, you think you're a lawyer.
Yeah. Right. Well, like, what is it you've built? What's he referring to?
Anyway.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I think the date is the key. And I think, let's recast this entire moment. I could see a scene next time where Kim challenges him, like, how can you be so cold and heartless? And then Jimmy's like, did you not notice the date? This is back when I was building a car wash and blah, blah, blah. This is before I tried to become a lawyer. Don't you see, this is back, this is before whatever. Like, and that's why he was so heartless reading the whole thing. And her not knowing that or not piecing that together is maybe why she was crying. Maybe it was something like that.
I definitely agree that we're seeing Saul now. And I finally get that the reason he turned on a dime and became happy was he realized there's nobody here to stop me anymore. There's no Chuck that's going to judge me if I do something wrong, if I become Slippin' Jimmy. So I saw that. So in that office, when he was about to take that job, I think that was the moment 2 episodes ago, because he saw the valuable Hummel. And as he's walking out, he realizes, you know what? I want to steal the Hummel. So I'm going to go back in and torpedo myself. And then, of course, in this episode that we're talking about, that all plays out. And he's able to take his first step down that road.
That's really disappointing, because I was really interested in the idea of watching Jimmy slip into a self-destructive spiral, like just getting jobs and screwing people over for sport. The idea, because you're right, now that we have the full context, it is pretty clear from that shot and that moment when everything changed, when he happens to lay his eyes on the tchotchke. That's a bit of a, I don't want to say a bummer, but that's a slightly less, it's a more cartoonish timeline than I was hoping for.
I think I like the way they did it, where it wasn't cartoonish of him like, Hummel. It was more like, Hummel. Then he walks out and then he thinks about it. And then he's like, you know what? These guys are assholes anyway. It is a more complex motivation.
Yeah. Interesting. Also, totally thought, given the structure of him soliciting, first trying to get Mike Ehrmantraut to do it. He says, it's not for me. And by the way, I love the fact that Mike so clearly figures out, like, this is some kind of personal thing. I don't know. This smells like,
it's not for me.
This smells like baggage he's working through, which is the way I took it. But then he gets put on the phone with a mysterious person who's also not interested in getting the tchotchke, but he talks them into it. And for some reason, I was convinced it was going to be a surprise cameo from somebody like Badger or somebody, some small-time crook.
Yeah.
And especially like when you see the silhouette of the guy, and also when you see his face, it very much looks like Saul wearing a fake beard. It looks like Bob Odenkirk wearing a fake beard. And for a second, both Bryce and I thought that. Yeah.
Funny. Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much your main threads here. What else do we have to talk about with Better Call Saul?
Nacho?
Nacho's adventure, man. They go out of their way to sell that.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I guess I put that out of my mind, but I was very curious why he was willing to go through all that. But I guess in the end, it's because it's the only way to save his own life.
Yeah. Well, and this is the beginning of the cancer eating away at the Salamanca cartel, right? This is how Gus Fring comes to power. Also, we got a surprise visit from Gale, who had a really weird looking, I think, fake beard or something. I couldn't tell if maybe they were covering up because he, they wanted to make him
way better at noticing that stuff than I do. I didn't even think about it.
Well, I don't know. Like in the face, he looked different, and I think it's just because it's been time, and maybe he's put on weight or whatever. And they were like, "Okay, you're supposed to look younger. How can we fix this? Let's put a beard on you or grow a beard."
Did he not have a beard in Breaking Bad?
No. He was clean shaven. Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I loved seeing Gale, and I loved seeing Gale as like, "Please let me cook for you, Mr. Fring."
Yeah,
when we know he's going to, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit heavy-handed and without understandable motivation. It was like he showed up as a one-dimensional cartoon character, as if to say, "I'm the guy who shows up later. I would like to cook for you."
Later.
Yeah, right. It was a little bit all too on the nose and without context, and it felt like if you hadn't seen the previous show, then this scene would be agonizing and it would be a poor scene, full stop. Like, I don't know what you would get out of it if
I would think if you hadn't seen the other show, you'd think, that's really interesting. A chemist would know how to cook meth and might be kind of bored with his life. And Fring is warning him, no, this life is dangerous. Not for you, young man. Like, I feel like it would play perfectly.
Yeah, but meanwhile, like Fring's obviously said, I know I look like a fried chicken franchise owner, but I'm actually a meth dealer. Please examine these meth things. Now you have all the leverage you need on the planet over me, student at a community college.
Yeah, but he's also a student at a community college, which he can lean on heavily. Fring's a good judge of character, and he will know that this guy is not going to want to talk, especially because he wants in.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed a bit much too fast. Cordkillers@gmail.com.
No, there's no right answer. I mean, share your opinions, of course.
Yeah, no. But I do love getting opinions from people in this second show.
Yeah. So, but at least Nacho lived. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Terminator and his twin brother, the other Terminator. I think they were dumb in Breaking Bad, and I think they're only double dumb in Better Call Saul. They were a cartoon in the other show, and this show is so subtle and smart and nuanced that they might as well have them quite literally be animated by hand, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. They might as well be the hooligans in the straitjackets. I don't like it. I don't know if I was clear enough about that.
Wait, what do you think of them?
I mean, I'm glad they're dead in the future. I'm glad I'm going to enjoy seeing them die when I go back and watch Breaking Bad again.
All right, then. Shall we move on to Preacher?
Yeah.
Season finale of Preacher, a little longer of an episode, and almost felt like 3 finales to me. Did it strike you that way? Because we got a finale to Tulip's journey, as well as a literal finale of The Devil. We got a finale to Cassidy's story, and we got a finale to Jess's grandmother.
They took so many interwoven storylines, and they landed every single one in a really delightful way. The literal Deus Ex Machina of God showing up to save Tulip from the tank. And also God being a middle-aged midlife crisis jerk is great. Like, all of that imagery I thought was amazing. That moment that moment that Eugene says to Hilter, I thought you changed. He goes, I did. My soul patch. I grew a soul patch. And then that moment of like they shoot the devil and then they say exactly what everyone at home is thinking. You can't do that. And then they immediately address and dismiss that concern by saying the rules have changed. And then as a viewer, I was like, it's true. The rules have changed. And then freaking Hitler sits at the throne of hell. And you think to yourself, of course he would. Why wouldn't he? This absolutely makes sense. That whole thing was great.
I love what you just did because I thought about it consciously. He was Hilter when Arseface asked him, like, I thought you had changed.
I did this accidentally.
Hitler when he sits down and takes over hell.
Yeah. And separate from that, I would say of all the resolutions, the most challenging one for me is Jesse Custer deciding to pay the price. I'm still not sure what I think about that. I know that it's going to work out, especially because, I don't know, that contract was with the devil. He's now dead. I know the contract's still on the desk and Hitler's got it. How does that affect things? Does it? I have no idea. And that's interesting. But I also I'm not quite convinced that Jesse would do that. Yeah, but also I think they did a good job. I very much like what they put together with young Jesse leaving and young Jesse old Jesse talking to young Jesse as they pass each other from black and white into color, saying like, hey man, it's all on you. And I like that they went back and revisited that. I was expecting I was like, they're going to surprise me with an ending where grandma gets it. But Jesse doesn't have to commit murder, and lose his soul. And I thought they had done it when he's like, you're going to die without the souls, and it destroys the souls. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Yeah. Like, she does not have long to live. Maybe we even see her keel over as he's walking away. And then they kind of copped out and had him turn around and go back and kill her. Which I'm like, okay, that is in the service of the story more interesting now because he's got something hanging over him. But I'm just like a hair shy of believing that he would have done that. So what's funny is I'm just a hair shy on the other side of believing he would have done that, which I felt like they did a good enough job of him communing with his younger self and him saying like, no, it didn't feel good, did it? No. And it's just like they paid just enough of the dues that I believe that rage, that agony, that anger would have driven him to be like, screw it, I'm probably going to hell anyway. Let's go ahead and do this. It made the cut for me just barely, and it sounds for you like it just barely didn't make the cut.
Yeah, Toilet Bug's like, Grandma killed his family. She deserved to die. Yeah, no, I don't think anybody's debating that part of it.
Right,
it's just a matter of how.
Right, and yeah. Meanwhile, the most interesting story of all, Cassidy's tale with the multiple gotcha endings. So good, so believable, so
well. And the first gotcha ending, you're like, well, no, he very clearly told her to call the one lady, so we know he's not. They're not really on his side. They're all standing around in the kitchen because they're waiting for the plan. When's the plan going to go into effect? And they're like, oh, okay, well, it must be coming here in a minute then, I guess. Like, yeah. It was really good.
That moment, that acting job from the actor who plays Cassidy, the brief moment he's alone in the room and is crying as he's just trying to get the words out to Tulip. So believable. And again, we've talked about how the only way Preacher gets away with the constant pointing at your shirt and then saying, I made you look, is to be so good at the execution, the special effects, the writing, everything, that for a brief moment you forget what Preacher is, and then it got you again. And I think that was an important downbeat leading into the ridiculousness of everything afterwards, including Hoover coming in, being a badass vampire.
Speaking of a gotcha ending, right?
Yep. And then it's like, no, not today. The umbrella's a lucky thing. And you're like, oh my gosh, he's saving Cassidy. And then he's like, no, he's not saving Cassidy. He's and then the benefits are great. And then the double whammy of like, oh yeah, by the way, forget it. You're
also, Timeless was canceled, and now you're not on Preacher anymore either.
Yeah, just burn him alive, and he's done.
Yeah.
And
your career is over. What? Are you making a movie? I don't know.
Totally dug the way he phrased Hairstar is just like, no, look, I'm through playing chess. Let's play some checkers, which just basically said, from now on, the Grail is not a tool. It's not somebody you're dancing around. They are a cartoon army coming for them. You know, they are a credible big bad that you're going to have a lot of fun watching them kill a lot of.
I also really liked the text message exchange of what you doing.
Gotta kill Grandma BRB.
Gotta kill my grandma. Sounds good. All right, bye.
And then they just put the thumbs up icon.
Oh, right. No, that was the best, right? Like, yeah, all right. I get time to write out a whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so good. All right. Anything else on Preacher?
No. I'm just sad it's going to be a long time till I get to see it again. I might have to rewatch them all from the beginning.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, we probably should have talked about this on Cordkillers too, but checking my fancy TV Time app, next one up is Ozark in 4 days, although I'm not caught up. And then The Man in the High Castle comes back 39 days from now.
Man, I don't. Maybe I can burst right through it if you swear it's worth the journey. Toilet Bug is asking us to binge Ash versus Evil Dead. I totally did, man. Watched all of that. That was great.
Yeah. Well,
not as good as Preacher. Preacher's next level though. Preacher is so.
All right. Let's get to Deadwood, season 3, episode 10. Brian.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah.
2 more episodes after this one.
Yeah.
2 more. So when you watch the next one, not the finale.
Yeah, I definitely watched this thinking it was the finale, and I was just like, this is a terrible finale. I mean, I guess it's a decent cliffhanger. I mean, they certainly have set the stage for whatever happens next season. But then I realized, oh, no, wait. Preacher is the one that ends at season 3, episode 10. And
yeah, so we got we basically have Hearst plays his card, right? He not his only card, but he hasn't played a card in a bit. So he plays his card of shooting around Alma to try to cause a reaction. Mostly, it seemed like he was hoping Ellsworth would hear about it and come a-running, cause the Pinkertons to have cause to put the town under clampdown, maybe shoot a couple of his rivals, and get this whole thing under his control. And Swearingen, very much in the Swearingen mode, thinks fast, ushers Alma into the gem, and makes sure that Ellsworth gets basically captured and brought to the gem through the back door, so that nothing happens except he convinces Alma to take a very frightening for her walk alone from the gem to her bank.
Yeah, which is important just to, mix up, keep the other folks off kilter. This is the first episode that I truly believed Al Swearingen is the hero of this show. Mm-hmm. There are times that, starting off, I thought he was the villain. There are times that I thought maybe he's the anti-hero. But in this moment, the moment everything happens, he instantly puts it all together, and he acts in the best interests of the town. You know what? Swearingen is the Varys of Deadwood.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately, he is there to serve the realm.
Yeah. Because he kills in service of the town.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he doesn't kill because, like, he's bloodthirsty. He kills Hearst's messenger because he knows that he's not going to give Hearst Ellsworth. He's going to deprive him of that.
Yep.
And he's not going to let this messenger continue to do Hearst's bidding. And he's going to send Hearst a message of his own by saying, well, I don't know what happened to your messenger. He went out the back door.
I mean, that moment.
Maybe I killed him. I don't know. What do you think?
That performance he put on just all the time, like as if he needed to make it even more clear by becoming more cartoonishly upset. Like Jesus, this MFer, this sea sucker, I can't believe that he would, if I were you, I'd be so mad.
It sounds to me steamed.
Yeah, I mean, and he just kept on going as Hearst realized, I get it, you just killed him. I understand.
Ian McShane's performance there is so subtle, right? It's hard for an actor to act normal. It's even harder to act like a bad actor.
Yes. Which those are my two favorite things are good actors playing somebody acting badly, and good actors playing characters who are portraying another character is one of my favorite things I get to see. Meanwhile, that exchange, we see Hearst lose his cool, and like an alpha chimp who just needs to beat on something, goes downstairs and spits in the face that rage against E.B. Farnham. And when he says, you will regret if I come down and discover you have wiped that off. That was so powerful, dark, and sinister. That is also, just like that was the episode that I realized Swearingen is the Varys, he's the protector of the realm of Deadwood. That's when I realized, Hearst really is the credible threat that everybody, this is the Hearst everybody had been talking about. And I saw him for the first time.
On lighter and more happy news, you got your wish. We got more Joni and Jane.
Yeah, it was really tender and sweet, and also exquisitely performed on both parts. I now know why Joni is still around, and even if all it is to bring solace and comfort to Jane, which unfortunately in these kind of shows usually means, just so it could be taken away, one of them could be taken away from the other, and both, certainly that moment taken away from us, the viewer. I was still very happy for it. That was such a exquisite, tender performance in the context of talking about, the dream she had and so on. It was really sweet. I liked it a lot.
A couple of other minor things. Of course, we get Jane is part of Joni is too the sort of unexplained guarding of the school where Miss Bullock came looking out like, what the hell's going on out there? Which was kind of interesting. And what was the other thing I was going to say?
Well, remember? Bullock basically is a one-note character. Ellsworth, out of a sense of duty and honor and being her husband, wanted to immediately run out and get himself killed. Whereas Bullock is smart enough to know that that's the aim. And Bullock, of course, has increasingly complicated feelings for Alma, but also is very aware that he has to limit himself. And so we just see him basically, his red glowing eyes raging as he sits at the table. Saul Star continues to be amazing. I actually had a cool moment when they were sort of assessing, they got 25 Pinkertons coming in or whatever, or 100 Pinkertons. And they were like, what do we have? They're like, we got the 5 of us. And then somebody's like, well, the Jew, if you point him, tell him what to shoot at. And I was like, I felt this weird glow.
He's got sand.
I was glad to hear Saul reckoned as among the reliable guns in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. He's got sand. It's such an 18th century expression, but one that really does fit. There was one other little thing that happened that I thought was worth mentioning, and now I can't seem to put my finger on it. But yeah, all in all, with only 2 episodes left to watch now,
it's a fine
really
place
good
setting. I'm wondering. I guess basically, if we're gonna wrap this thing up and have it feel wrapped up, they got 1 episode to set a trap, and then another episode to surprise us with it.
And they've been pointing towards the vote, right? Hearst is like, I control the vote. The vote goes the way I want to. So I assume that's the big thing that's going to, all the action is going to center around whatever happens.
Yeah.
Well, folks, hope you enjoy talking about these as much as we enjoy talking about them with you. Again, if you want these episodes early or a little bit of extra after show talk, by all means, support us at patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.